Okay, I'm gonna do my best to not make this video 3 hours long because I could easily talk about this movie for a week straight without stopping. Hey everyone! Today I want to talk about the new movie Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. And I know a lot of people don't love that title. I am obsessed with that title. It reminds me so much of like golden age sci-fi stories and I'm just completely here for it. In this review, I'm not going to be giving any spoilers whatsoever because I know a lot of people haven't seen this movie yet and I do not want to ruin this movie for anybody. I really highly encourage you going to go see it. If you're new to this channel, I really love to dive into mental health and pop culture and how things can impact mental health or how it represents mental health, and I think this movie is so fantastic for that. I want to say it outright because I think it really impacts the way I see this movie and the way it hit me and why it hit me so strongly. I am a survivor of an abusive relationship. It was emotionally and sexually and psychologically abusive, a little bit physically too. It was not fun at all. I have always been really drawn to the Harley Quinn character, but I could never get that into her story because so much what was presented was just kind of glorifying the abuse between the Joker and her. And when I saw the trailer for this movie, I'm like, it doesn't really seem like it's doing that. And I just want to say that if you've been avoiding this movie because you're afraid it's going to glorify abuse or an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship, that is completely opposite of what this movie does. It is so wonderful and empowering for anyone who's been through a relationship like that. However, if you are really raw about it, it is hard. I mean, it comes up constantly throughout the movie from the beginning on. Like, Harley was abused by basically everyone in her life from the time she was a child on, and she doesn't shy away from talking about it, doesn't shy away about the impact. You see how it really colors the way she views herself and the way she views people around her. She does all these coping things that I think are really relatable if you've been through something like that, and it can be really great to see but also kind of triggering. So that's something I do think to keep in mind, that if you think it's going to be like too hard to watch something about this at all, then it might be better to watch it even at home with friends or something. But if it's something where you're just afraid of it glorifying it and not particularly afraid of being like triggered by the topic itself, then I definitely recommend going to go see it. And also if you like didn't like Suicide Squad or didn't see Suicide Squad, I didn't see it, I was completely fine with this. I was pretty familiar with Harley's story already, but she really does a great job of like telling her whole story right away at the beginning of the movie, so it's really pretty easy to catch up very quickly. But the movie is really great. So much of what it is about reclaiming a sense of power and a sense of self after you've been through abuse and trying to find who you actually are, trying to learn how to connect with other people and trying to find out who you are and trying to kind of recalibrate yourself to what are good relationships, what are good people, what you should expect from other people, what you should expect from yourself. Because it's really easy when you've been through enough of something like that to just get completely closed and shut off and think that everyone is terrible, everyone is horrible. And I think anyone who's been through something like that, especially in a relationship and like in an intimate relationship, it's really easy to completely lose yourself in your abuser and your life and to just do whatever it takes to make them happy or keep them happy or keep their attention on you, because it does eventually feel like they're the only thing in the world that matters and their approval is all you need to be safe or to be loved. It easily becomes like they're your whole world, they're the whole world because they shut out anything else. And so you'll do whatever you have to get their approval because the only way you stay safe is to have their approval. And it really messes with you. Like when I got out of that abusive relationship, it was a struggle to kind of remember what I like and who I am outside of that and what's me versus what was me coping with the relationship. And I know there are some people complaining, particularly people who haven't seen the movie, about this movie being very sexist against men or condoning abuse against men. I've seen a lot of that. That is absolutely not the case in this movie. In this movie, men are just called out for being sexist when they are, but not every man in this movie is a sexist. Not every man in this movie is an abuser. There are a lot, but that is not the default for every single male in the movie. And it's just that Harley is very matter of fact. She's still a psychologist, basically. Like, it is fantastic because she's continually analyzing people. And part of it is just being very direct in her head. Like, she will call out if someone doesn't like her because she's a woman, she'll know, oh, you don't like me because I'm a woman. And she just will call it what it is, which is wonderful because so often that's danced around and we're taught to like pretend that's not really what's going on, or don't say anything if you're going to set them off, or what if you're wrong, and she just calls it like it is because she's good at reading people, which is so refreshing to see. It also doesn't overly sexualize them in a male gaze way. Like the Birds of Prey are not hypersexualized. They are sexy, they're beautiful, they're strong, they're incredible, but it's not something where it feels like you're watching women that are there just to be attractive to the men watching the movie and for no other purpose. It does not feel that way. Everything feels really natural and organic to the characters. I mean, this was written by a woman, it was directed by a woman, it was produced by women. It very, very much takes women seriously as women and as fully fleshed characters, and they're not all amazing. Like, it's not something else I've also seen are people acting like, oh, well, all these are just like plucky heroines who are perfect and all the guys are terrible. And that, again, is not true. These are like massively shades of gray character. Like, Harley is not presented as this like ideal, incredible person that we're all supposed to look up to. Like, she's presented as a flawed gray character, which is fantastic. And all the other women are pretty much taken the same way. Like, even the ones that aren't villains are problematic still. They have issues, they have problems, they don't have their life together, they're screwing things up. And I think that's really important because it can be really easy to, in films and pop culture, to have abuse victims taken as either like weak children who couldn't handle themselves, which is a horrible way to present abuse victims and is really untrue and kind of makes it feel like it's your fault if you go through it. If you had just been stronger, you never would have gone through something like this. Or they're presented as like squeaky clean, idealistic angels and kind of saints, and almost kind of this like virginal demureness about them. And I think it's really important in this movie to show that like Harley is not a good person. She owns that she is not a good person. She's a bad person. And that doesn't mean that the abuse she went through is a good thing or that she deserves it. Like, you're not watching this incredible person who is now suffering. You're watching this like messed up, mean, self-centered person who is also struggling and in trauma and is partly the person she is because of what she's been through. And it doesn't excuse her behavior, but it does offer a depth and a reason behind it. And it also doesn't present her as this amazing, amazing, incredible person. And I think that's really important because there are people who maybe don't feel like they fit that mold of, you know, the perfect victim. And I think it's really important for it to be stated that anyone can be a victim of something like this. Like, you don't have to be a good person to be an abuse victim. You don't have to be a weak person to be an abuse victim. You don't have to be anything like that. Like, anyone can be a victim of it, and it's not okay for anyone to go through this. All that said, I feel like this makes it sound like it could be a very, very heavy movie, and it is not. It deals with these topics. It doesn't shy away from them. It doesn't shy away from her past or her struggles. It doesn't shy away from sexism. It calls it out all the time. But what's fantastic is this movie is really, really fun. It is hysterical. It's like, it's real and it's gritty, but it's also completely fantastic and over the top and kind of joyous. It honestly reminds me a little bit of like that love that Tarantino has for film that comes out in his movies. You can just tell he's like so excited to be making a movie and to be a part of Hollywood, to be doing this. This has that same vibe to me where it just feels like, oh, they're excited to be putting together a movie and doing a movie, and they just love film. Like, that so comes through, that passion, that very sincere passion for the art form. And what's also great is it kind of has that pulpy feel, which again, very Tarantino, but without being an exploitation at all. Like, it's wonderful. It has that vibe without exploiting its characters. So you get that while still getting very like real grounded characters, even when they're, I mean, like, Harley is very over the top and ridiculous, but she's also so grounded and real to me. Like, I didn't realize how unseen I felt with a lot of the things I do to deal with the abuse I've been through until I actually saw it. Like, when she is going through something that starts, you can tell, triggers like PTSD from abuse she suffered, she just kind of snaps and has this fantasy sequence, this like incredible fluffy sequence that like could feel like it comes out of nowhere, but it really doesn't, because that is something I have always done. Like, when things start getting hard or triggering, I just escape into like a fantasy world and somewhere else and go somewhere else. Or another time where like Harley is really terrified of things going on and you see her start to break down, and then she just closes her eyes and forces herself to kind of snap and turn into someone else who's enjoying it and happy and perky and excited and, you know, crazy. And those were really incredible little moments to actually see on the screen, and it made me feel so seen as a survivor of that kind of stuff. I honestly loved everything about this movie. I've been trying to come up with anything I didn't like about it, and there really isn't anything. The main thing I've heard people complain about is a lot of the comic fans are really upset about the characterization of Cassandra Cain because she's very different than she is in the comic books. I haven't read a lot of her stuff, so I really can't comment on that. So it didn't personally bother me because I haven't dealt with that, but if you're a huge fan of hers, I'd brace to be annoyed. But other than that, every performance was extraordinary. I am now completely just officially obsessed with Margot Robbie. Like, just, she's incredible. Everyone in this was great. I loved the music. I loved the color palette. I loved the cinematography. I think the editing is outstanding. It reminds me a lot of Scott Pilgrim, but like a super feminist, ridiculous version of Scott Pilgrim, which I'm just so here for. I can't even handle it. The characters, again, are all great because they all are layered. Every one of them has real depth to their personality and their motivations, and you clearly know what is motivating them. You clearly know who they are. I feel like even if it's not explicitly stated in the script who they are, it just comes through in the performance where it's like, oh, I understand this character. I can really get where this character is coming from just from the look on her face. The fight sequences are amazing, so great. They're gorgeous and they're intense, wild, and creative. There is one scene in this that, again, I don't want to spoil, but it might be my favorite scene in just about any movie ever. It's just so bizarre and surreal. Like, this movie is such a great mix of like completely surreal and absurd and completely real and relatable, and I just think they blended those two things so perfectly. It's a short movie. It's about 100 minutes long, and it feels shorter than that. It is so fast. It just runs very, very quickly. The pace is fantastic. Ewan McGregor's villain is ridiculous. He's over the top and campy, and you can tell he loves playing that character. He just really chews it, and it's wonderful to watch. I was just continually belly laughing throughout the whole thing, even though I felt like I kept getting these little moments of like, oh God, I relate to this, I feel this, I know where she's coming from pain-wise, I know what she's thinking here. So I'd have all those moments of being really emotionally touched, but my primary thing I had with this was just absolute joy. Like, it's just such a joyful, inspiring movie, which is fantastic because it's also so dark. It's very, very dark. The violence is intense, but even me, I'm very easily triggered by violence, and I was pretty good with almost all of this. I had to look away a couple of times because I'm like, oh, I don't know how bad you're getting. But like, I have a very, very hard time with Deadpool. Deadpool's too violent for me, and this was similar, but it just was like fantastic enough that I was okay with it. It really didn't set me off nearly as much. And that's not to say they downplay it or shy away from it. They don't. Like, my girlfriend was literally cringing next to me at some parts. But it's like, it's done in this way where it's like almost fun to watch, which is always slightly disturbing, which then puts you in the headspace of the character, which is great. Oh, I just cannot say enough good things about this movie. Seriously, I'm trying so hard to not spoil it as much as possible, but I really strongly urge you to go see this movie if you don't think it'll be too triggering for you. It's not like they talk about abuse 24/7. It's not the only thing in the movie. It just very much colors everything, and I think if you've been through abuse, especially relationship abuse, it's going to be very hard to not see how it colors every little thing, and that's meant so much to me. It wasn't spoon-fed. I don't think everyone watching it is going to get that out of every little thing. I think a lot of people are going to be able to tune out of it very often, but if it's something you've been through, I feel like there are enough little touches just constantly throughout the movie to make it like it's as someone told me when they had seen it, they're like, this is a survivor's movie, and that's 100% what this is. It is empowering, and it is joyous, and it is fun and vibrant and alive, and I walked out of the theater completely buzzing, and I have just felt different since seeing it, and in the absolute best way. I felt so much stronger and so much more myself, and even though Harley is not like a role model, not a hero, I've definitely been having her in my head where I'm like, okay, would Harley put up with this? Would she call this out? Would she call this what it is? And, you know, handle it differently than she would. Maybe don't physically attack somebody if they're like a sexist asshole, but also recognize that they're a sexist asshole and call them out for that. And it's been really great and really empowering, and it's kind of encouraging me to recognize the fact that like I've done a lot of healing since that relationship, but I have not fully healed, and seeing this movie has made it very clear the parts of me I still want to find. And this movie has made me feel like I can find them, like I have the strength to find them, and I feel very not alone. And separate from all of that, I just, I need this franchise to take off. I really need it to, because I need more of this, because it was just wonderful to watch women really be taken seriously and have depth and have strength and be themselves and show different kinds of femininity. And it was just absolutely incredible, and it didn't feel like pandering. It didn't feel like, hey, let's have a girl power moment just to show you what girl power is. There, is that enough? Are you satisfied? It felt very real and earned, and like what it would be like if they were actually female superheroes, super villains, super people, you know, fighting. Like, what would they deal with? What would they think? What would they feel? And Harley makes it really great and fun, because she's so desperate to be loved and accepted that she wants to just do like all the typical girly bonding so fast. And it's just, oh, it's so real and so relatable and so beautiful. And I am incredibly grateful for this movie. I'm going to go see it again. I'm trying very hard to talk pretty much everyone I know who I think might even remotely like this movie to go see it. And then I'm gonna just tag along, because I just need to see this movie over and over and over again until it comes out on DVD, and then I'll probably watch it daily for 2 weeks, because that's what I do. It's wonderful. It's great. If you haven't seen it, please, please, please go see this movie. Support this movie. It deserves it. It is 100% at minimum going to become a cult classic. Like, there's no way it won't. I feel like this is one of those movies 10 years from now, people are going to be like, wait, why wasn't Birds of Prey like a hit? Why wasn't this a huge thing? Like, hoping it still becomes a hit, hoping word of mouth spreads. But this movie is just, it's a wonderful experience. It deserves to be seen on the big screen. It really deserves to be seen, and it makes you feel like you deserve to be seen. So I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. I hope you do too. I hope you also get some of that empowering feeling if you're needing it or looking for it. Okay, I'm gonna try to cut myself off, because I could just keep going and going and going and analyze every little thing about this movie, but I can't do that without spoiling it. There might be another one coming up. Maybe when the DVD comes out, I might do a more in-depth one that'll just go into spoilers and go into every little element of this movie. But for now, I'm just gonna stop and say it's amazing and it's wonderful and it's empowering, and please, please, please go see this movie. Okay, I'll be back next week with more videos on pop culture and mental health. Until then, take care, be well, and have some fun.